So this is Friday, and this is our last keynote speaker for IMAW Week Americas. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have Ximena here from Chile. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because her practice area is super incredible and unique. So Ximena, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing time with us. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you so you may introduce yourself to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you very much for the invitation. This is my first time in being a speaker in such a wonderful organization. So thank you very, very much. I want to confess myself first. I'm going to start by confessing myself, then speaking about me. I'm very nervous because I get very nervous at public speaking. And English is not my first language. I live in Chile and well, in all America, except by United States, except by Mexico and Brazil, all the continent speaks Spanish. This is Spanish is my language, my first language. So yeah, excuses for I'm lack of vocabulary sometimes, or the verb terms, sometimes I fail. And it's not as much as good as I like it, but I will do my best. So yeah, after confessing, I'm going to talk about Chile. Chile is a long, very long, narrow country in South America. We have a beautiful, beautiful coast. And we are 19 million people in Chile. And we love trials. We love to handle to the judge our problems, to give the judge the power to say what we have to do. So mediation started just not so long time ago, about 15, 20 years, started mediation in Chile. And it started in family mediation. That was the first thing so all the mediators in Chile started by being family mediators. And then, well, about me, I'm an agriculture engineering. That's my profession. And for the last 17 years, I've been mediating and never stopped since then. I love what I do. I really, really, really love it. And today I'm going to talk about, because I mediate in three main different areas. One of them is a family business, and the other one is commercial and family business. The other one is family relationships, and the other is well, health mediation, the topic I'm gonna talk about it. Perhaps you're here because of health mediation, or because the title was like very funny. It was from the outside to the inside and in between. And then, so I'm gonna explain a little bit what is all that about, what is outside, what is inside, and what is in between. Here in Chile, we have by law, we have two laws regarding to mediation, family and health. In both of them, if you want to go and sue somebody, a hospital, or your ex-husband or your ex-wife or whatever, in family or in health, you have to go to mediation first. So, well, having that mentioned that, that's the part in between. I'm going to talk later, because I'm going to start talking about the outside from the health mediation. I work in a private hospital. In Chile, we have private and public health. The private is very expensive and very good. The public health is, well, free or cheap, and it's not so good. And we have a lot of problems as a country with the public health. So that's why I mentioned I work in a private hospital, and it's the first hospital, only the first one and the only one in Chile who has mediators inside the hospital. We are four four of us. I'm the last one to get into that hospital. And I was hired to mediate what I call people from the streets. It's people who wants to, as I want to go to the doctor, or I want to go to the mediator. It's the same way of reserving the hour. So you go by the web page and you say, I want mediator. And that's very unique here in Chile. We don't have it just in this hospital. So I first started working with people from outside. Mostly it was about family relationships, couples, siblings, mother and daughters, teenagers, especially mother with teenagers. That's a big issue. I don't know in your countries, but in Chile, it's a lot of fighting between mothers and teenagers, especially when they're girls. And so there was those kind of conflicts. Well, and after some months working there, I noticed that there was no like a concept. How do I say it? It was not a consistency between the outside and the inside world. I mean, what was happening inside the hospital. Because if you were from the outside and you wanted to have a mediation, you could. But then if you work inside the hospital, you couldn't get mediation. And in fact, all the conflicts were just exploding. And well, some of them went to court, and the other ones, people was going out of the hospital. Doctors and nurses said, okay, if I'm not getting along with this, or we have a conflict and we cannot solve it, I'm going out. I'm not working anymore here. And so I said, something's going on, and I should do something because of that. So what I started to talk, well, doctor by doctor, nurse by nurse, with a lot of people. I spent a lot of time speaking with the people who worked in the hospital. And then I get into the management area with the people who really were the bosses and the people who decided. And I tried to convince them in the way of, well, in the manner of showing them the benefits of mediation and what it was, because nobody, of course, here in Chile, nobody knows what mediation is. I mean, nobody knows, but most of the people doesn't know. So I have to explain every time what mediation was. And but I don't care. I can explain it 10 times per day if that means more mediation in Chile. So at the beginning, they couldn't believe me. They said, this is not going to work. But well, as everything starts, I think somebody trusts me and say, okay, we have now a problem between doctors and nurses. So, okay, we will give them to you in a big table so you can do whatever you do, those things that you say you do. And well, let's see what happens. And it was, well, I was looking forward to that mediation, because I say, well, if this went good, it will be really a success. And if it doesn't get, if they don't get an agreement, they will not believe in mediation. Although I believe in the process, but in this time I had to show the agreement was really working on, and it went well. We have a long one session, but a long one, and they discussed about what was happening. It was about communication mainly. Of course, they work together, and they have issues in between, and different ways of working, schedule also. So we have an agreement. It was about 4 or 5 different topics in the agreement. And then also one of the agreement was to whom we should share this agreement, because it is confidential between the people in the mediation. But then they said, yeah, okay, but we have been working so hard in this mediation, and finally we have an agreement that we think it will work, that we want our bosses, because they had from different areas and they had different bosses, we want our bosses to know about it. So they allow me to share the agreement with their bosses and also with the main director of the hospital. And that was huge because I say, yeah, you really want him to, yeah, because this is very good. So he must know about it. And so I shared the agreement with both bosses and the main director of the hospital. And that has been really good and had a very good and impact in the way they are solving now the problems. And so the next mediation was a little bit different, but in the inside way of mediating, and it was between 50, it was a kind of 15 people who work with a patient. It was a patient who was being a lot of time in the hospital. So the family of the patient was getting some conflicts with the doctors and the nurses and the physiotherapists and all the people who work there. And so we have also a mediation, and in that it was more than one session. I think it was 2 or 3 sessions, but it was not more than that. And they were able to get along and to finally put their interest in the table, and they clarify themselves about what they wanted and why they having so much conflict. And then they agree of some things that they should do, some responsibilities that they should take. And so they have an agreement, and that was also something new that I learned, because normally I did the agreements in paper, and we have to sign it, each party and me, we signed the agreement, and it was very official. But he was a millennial and they are more open-minded in everything. I love them, the millennials, because they are they do things different, and I'm learning so much with them. And so we finished the mediation. I say, okay, well, this is the agreement. So I'm going to write it down. I'm going to send it you by mail, or perhaps we can join tomorrow to sign the papers. And said, what, paper? Do we have to sign paper? Is it necessary? Because perhaps by WhatsApp you can send the agreement. And I was like, by WhatsApp? My agreement? I mean, your agreement, but I was a mediator in this. And I say, okay, if you want. So I asked the other party, and I said, do you like it? Do you mind if it's by WhatsApp? And they say, perfect. I think it's really, really helpful and handy. So yeah, let's do it by WhatsApp. And they also wanted for the director of the hospital to know about it, because they have been talking to him a lot. So they wanted for him to know about this mediation and the good results. So yeah, those were my 2 mediations inside the hospital. And I'm now having some more, and I hope it will grow up and have a lot of issues to mediate inside this hospital. So now I'm very glad, because I go there. I have 2 mornings there in that hospital, and so now I can mediate in conflicts from people from the street, and also from people inside the hospital, from conflicts among the workers, or conflicts among the patient and the workers, or conflict between people who work in the hospital, and so on. And that's the outside and the inside in health mediation. Now I'm going to talk about the in-between mediation. That's something that I've been doing since January this year. I'm very new at it. Although this is also by law. I was hired by the State Defense Council here in Chile. It's by the government, and it is very, I think it's very good, the system, because you have to be enrolled in a list of mediators, of health mediators, and the people should not the people, is the State Defense Council that choose which mediator goes to the each mediation, to each conflict, and it's between the patient and their family, between the hospital, mainly goes the lawyer who represents the hospital, and it comes also the doctors, or sometimes the attorneys of the doctors. And so it's all the people who were involved in the conflict, mainly is a medical negligence. They have to go with me by Zoom, because from January and nowadays we do it just by Zoom. So it's very, very much more easy, because there's a lot of people from different parts and from different areas of the city. So when it was in the office of the State Defense Council, I think it has been much more difficult to join them. So now everything is by Zoom, and it is funny because I thought it was just money compensation. In the beginning, I say, oh, well, this is going to be very boring, perhaps, because it's, oh, I want some money because you did this surgery not in the way I was supposed to be. So I have to go to the private doctor, and he billed me, and so I want my money back. And I mean, everything I thought it was going to be about money compensation. But I was so surprised, and I'm so pleased that it's okay. Sometimes it is something about money, and okay, it is fine. But a lot of times, and really, I mean it, a lot of times, it is about explanations, about saying, I'm sorry, I didn't do it as it was supposed. Sometimes it's, for example, medical service. I need a physiotherapist because I need to exercise my leg, for example. And so they agreed to have 10 sessions of that exercise for free, with the best physiotherapist in the hospital, etc. So it is much more than money compensation. It's about hearing the patient, hearing the family. Sometimes the person who asked for the mediation is somebody, the parents or the son or the daughter, that has suffered a lot, and they want to understand. Most of the time they want to understand what happened. Is as easy as that? Is what happened, why he hasn't recovered yet, or why you didn't do the x-ray that you were supposed to. And if you were done the x-ray, perhaps things would have been different now. So that's a lot of questions, sometimes little questions, sometimes big questions, but to have the space and a neutral mediator who is not biased with the hospital or with the people. I mean, just put the space for them to speak, to listen to each other, and to understand really what happened. So when the doctors came along that's really beautiful, I think, because I don't know in the other countries, but here in Chile, doctors are like God. It's like, oh, we say the doctor instead of doctor, because it's like they are so powerful and they are so like in the high level. So when they are coming into a mediation, oh, I think magic happens, because he can explain by himself what happened in the surgery, for example, and what is expected to happen next. That's also something very important, because some people say to me, okay, my mother, she has a surgery, and okay, but what's next? What's gonna come next? And sometimes they don't have the possibility to talk to the doctor and have all the answers of their questions. So being able to have this moment, this space, this mediation table where they can put everything, all the questions, and ask for the answers and clarification about the things that happen is really, really amazing. And so I'm so pleased to be able now to have another kind of health mediation. I call it in between, because it's in the health system, but it's between the people who works in the hospital and the patient and their family. And they can be all together in the Zoom. Sometimes I have 10 people from the family. I don't care. Whoever wants to hear. Although, of course, we have some protocols. And for example, if they have an agreement, then there's one who has to sign it and has to say, okay, I'm not going to sue the hospital because I received the answers I want, or received the money I thought I should have. And so that we have, of course, some protocols, but I don't care if in first session or second session, all the family wants to be there. They have to sign a confidential, they don't have to sign, but I have to say that it is confidential for everybody who's in the room. And so I have to sign up their names and their social numbers, etc. But this is that moment of listening to each other and understanding what happened, what makes me very glad of working in this kind of mediation. So yeah, I don't know if it's all been said about the outside and the inside and in between, but yeah, that's what I do in terms of health mediation.
That's really incredible. I've heard you say it to me before, and I was taking it in because in the United States, I only know one group that does that, and it's an insurance group where if someone's hurt on the operating table or if someone dies on the operating table, they'll do what you do right away. And they're having very much success. It's in the Pacific Northwest. But this time when you were talking, I started really thinking about it. It's not your typical mediation, Ximena, because they want to know details of what happened in a room where they weren't allowed into. So everything is a mystery somewhat. And then when you think about it, something bad has happened that oftentimes can't be resurrected, can't be fixed, at least in totality. So these people are left with the damage that's been done behind closed doors. And when
exactly.
Go ahead.
Exactly, and also with the pandemic, because most of in normal times the family can be there outside the surgery pavilion, so they can talk to the doctor and they can receive some answers. But here is just a patient, and the patient is sleeping, of course. So he goes out of the surgery and he doesn't know what happened. And yeah, and the family cannot be there because here still in the hospital is not allowed the family to go in because of the pandemic, because of the COVID. So there's a lot of questions. So yeah, it's different kind of mediation, because I call it perhaps much more facilitation than mediation, because it's putting the space, the moment, it's gathering all together. And give them the opportunity to talk to each other, mainly. And what I distinguish that facilitation from mediation in this kind of conflicts is, you can imagine the patient and the doctor and the lawyer of the hospital. So it's so different people, and I have to ensure that they all feel the same, with the same power, with the same opportunities to speak. So that's really something of mediation, that you can have a big doctor and the for a small nurse for doing like and they can talk equally. It's not your profession, it's not your money, it's not your where do you work. It's just you have a conflict in between, and in the conflict they're all equals, and they have to well, talk as equals. And that's my main concern. Yeah.
That was part of our panel discussion really early this morning about how power is leveled. Everyone comes to the table with equal power. So I'm going to open this up, of course, for everyone else to join in as well. And now my left brain is kicking in pragmatically. I'm wondering a couple things. I'm wondering, number one, is there a time, when a family finds out that someone's died on the operating table, and or they've been seriously injured because of a mistake for whatever, the anesthesia or whatever it is, they're in shock. So I'm wondering, is there like a waiting time where the family gets to like get out of the shock and come to the table with full cognition? That's my first question.
Yeah, that's a good question, because we have a lot of times 3 years you can wait. Yeah, you have 3 years, 3 years that you can go to mediation, and then if you are not having an agreement, you can sue. After that, you lost your opportunity. But it's 3 years. So I have some mediations that happened the month before, and some 2 years before. Yeah, the other day, for example, that was really, really sad, because I have the claim. I call it the claim. So I have to read it. This person, what happened, and it was a man who was claiming because of the bad service of her mother with cancer, and he was claiming and he was asking for better treatment for her mother, and she has cancer. And so, well, the first thing I do after reading and learning about is to call. I call the person who's claiming. I call from my mobile, and that's something I think it's very, very important, because I gave them my number. I said, this is my personal number, and I will give it to you, and you can call me anytime you want if you have some doubts of the process of mediation. And because I'm going to explain now, I'm going to explain it by Zoom when we are in the meeting. But if you have, for any chance, something that you don't, or you feel you don't have the answer, you can call me. This is my phone. Of course, you have my email and etc. So that gives them like, okay, somebody is going to listen to me, and I have the WhatsApp and I have the phone, so I can be in touch. And so then I call them because as we are doing it by Zoom, they also have the right to wait for the COVID to pass, and be in presence, and be in the meeting, by person to person. How do you call it? Presence? Yeah.
Face to face.
Sorry.
Face to face.
Yeah, face to face. That's thank you. Face to face. So they have the right to wait and say, no, I don't like Zoom. I don't feel comfortable on Zoom, so I'm going to wait for face to face. But normally, most of the people say, okay, but I have to check it. So when they say, okay, it's good for Zoom for me, then I start the process, and I have to send some letters, and of course. And the other day I was doing that and say, hello, Mr. I'm Ximena Regulez. I'm a mediator from the State Defense Council, and I'm taking your case, and I'm going to be your mediator, whatever. How are you doing? And I say, sorry, I cannot speak now. I'm my mother died yesterday, so I'm with her now. And I was in shock, and I say, whoa. He was claiming because of the treatment of her mother, and her mother now was dead. So, so then I have to, ask a lot, because I didn't know what to do in these cases, because it was another motive for the mediation. But then my boss said to me, well, wait a little bit, wait 2-3 weeks more, then you call him back, and you say if he wants to continue with the mediation now, because of his mother who's dead. And when somebody is dead, I have to call all the people who are inheritance of the people who's dead, of the person who's dead. So then I had to explain. I talked to him, and he said, okay, I want to continue with the mediation. But then I had to explain, and sometimes that is not so, because I say, okay, but your mother has 4 children, 1 husband, 3 brothers, 1 sister, and I have to call them, all of them, to see if they want to go to mediation. Because if eventually they get to an agreement, and it's, when it's a dead person, it's money. There's nothing else, because they are claiming because of money, because of bad treatment. So if they eventually get an agreement, all the people who are supposed to inherit the money from the person should be agree to do it and to sign it. So yeah, and sometimes that's not so nice, because sometimes they say, well, it's 4 children, and they say, no, it's just 2. So they find out sometimes, because of me, that there were more children in the family. So that's not so, yeah, because I have a privileged information because I have to, is this the family net, I don't know how to say it in English, but this is an official paper they have to get to know the children and the husband and the sisters and the siblings. So yeah, sometimes that happens. Or also the other day, from the first session to the second session, the person died. So that's also some things that happened. Yeah.
Well, you have to be very fleet-footed, not just with somebody's mad because a dog peed on their bushes. You have to be very fleet-footed because someone passes away, or somebody has children that they never told the rest of their family about. And when you get the court order to share that information, that privileged information, then now that's the shock as well. That kind of mediation, we call that elder care mediation in the United States, where we're settling an estate. And that's what you end up doing when someone dies. It sounds like you're settling the money from the hospital, dispersing it among the living survivors that are entitled.
That's when elder health mediation, that's called. But sometimes it's just babies or all ages. So for example, the other day was a mother who was claiming because his baby was in a surgery, and the doctor said, we're gonna do this surgery, and then he came out and say, oh no, we didn't do that, we did another one. Another one, what? She's like, it's like you're operating the left leg and then you're operating the right leg, and there's no explanation for that. And so and as strange as it sounds, they do not have explanations. And it's like, okay, you were meant to operate the left leg and you operated it right. Sometimes it's just as that example, and they don't know why. And so so mediation is really, really important, just to know about what happened. Well, and to take sometimes also things that are claimed in the mediation are changes of protocols, because they say, okay, because the lawyer says, okay, but the hospital, they act by protocol, and in cases like yours, the hospital did well because it was A, B, and C. So the person say, okay, but it doesn't work A, B, and C. So we should talk about it, and perhaps it's B, C, and D. So let's change the protocol then, because if you're going to say that everything is good because you act by protocol, well, let's change it because someone will be damaged because of the protocol.
So if the protocol is off and it damages somebody, then the family can also say, what part of what we want is this protocol to be changed because this caused damage.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's much more about money. It's much more because it's protocols, explanations.
Answering the why questions, having the satisfaction because it's a mystery behind closed doors. How much do you see a doctor taking responsibility, like apologizing? Do you see that a lot?
No.
No.
There's a pity, but no, because most of them send the lawyers, the attorneys. So and then it's not so because the lawyer on the end, they say, oh, I'm sorry, I was not there, so I'm just telling you what the doctor told me. So then it's not bad. In those cases where the doctors are there, it worked perfect. And it really says, because sometimes it was good what the doctors did, but they don't understand, the family doesn't understand why he did it. So sometimes it's a really like very technical explanation, very medical explanation, but then they say, okay, now we understand. Oh, thank you very much. So when the doctor is there, yeah, well, it helps a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dana, you have a question or comment? Thank you.
Hello,
Hi, Sina. Nice to see you.
nice to hear from you. So, Ximena, first I want to thank you for having this topic. Given that you are not a lawyer, you are not a doctor, this proves a lot of courage and dedication from you choosing to mediate, especially in this field where people are grieving, experiencing the most difficult losses. So thank you for choosing to mediate this and for talking about this. Actually, I had a question I wanted to ask. You mentioned first that sometimes it's not about the money, it's just having this apology. So Kathleen was faster and she posed this question. So can we please expand more on that? What type of solution or agreement you can reach that will be satisfying to this victim or to the parents that are grieving, losing a beloved one?
Oh, thank you, Sina. Thank you very much for your question. When it's about a person who dies, normally it is also the why question. Why? Perhaps they should do something else. For example, now I am in between. I am really looking forward for the explanation because it wasn't because of COVID. It is a father who was in COVID, was a father and a mother, but the father went into the hospital and the mother stood in the house with the grown-ups children, and the mother, now she's safe, and they took very good well care of the mother, but the father died. But there was one daughter who always called every day, was called by a doctor from the hospital to say, okay, your father is this and that, and gave all the information. But it seems that the information was from another person, because all the day they were saying it's getting better, 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 and there was a time another person called and said, so tell me, when are you going to come to the hospital to say goodbye to your father? And they were like, what? Goodbye? Why? He's getting better and better and better. So it seems that they were telling the medical history of another patient. So they have like what happened? Because, okay, they know he had COVID. They do not know why her mother did it well and her father died. He was in the hospital and she was in the house. They lived together, and why did that happen? And how come you can give the information from another patient to a family? So yeah, there's a lot of why questions, and compensation. And most of the time when it's a person who died, after the why, they want some money because of the damage. And when it's not about people who are dying, but it's some things that went wrong in a surgery or in a treatment, they ask for also why question, but for different kinds of treatment. And we also can agree on that. Okay, treatment A didn't work. Okay, by mediation, they're gonna agree that treatment B is gonna be the one who they're gonna give them to the people. So yeah, the different kinds of treatment, public explanation sometimes, or change of protocols was another. Yeah, so it's a lot of more than compensation. Yeah. And also when they, for example, when there's a grieving from somebody who died, to hear the doctor and the nurses and the people from the hospital to say, I am so sorry because of this. yeah, the people say, okay, thank you. They sometimes list just to hear the word, I am so sorry. Oh, it's relieving. Is yeah, feel the feel of relief when you hear that word.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
In the United States, when there's a death like that and there's a lawsuit, I do lawsuit mediations, and the insurance adjuster will have a scale of money attached to different injuries. My next question is, does your hospital do that as well? Like a death is worth so much money, a death by this is worth so much money, a mistake. So do you have to work with these scales and structures of what things are worth? How do you do that in a mediation?
Well, that's easy, because we have like two amounts of money as maximum in mediation. One is when somebody died, there's an amount, a fixed amount as maximum. And when is another injured, is another. So I have two amounts of money. Okay. So sometimes if I ask for, the people ask for 100, and I have to say, okay, in mediation, there is a maximum, and it's, for example, 80. But I have to tell them about what they can expect. Because if they go to trial, to the court, there's no maximum, not at all. They can ask whatever they want. But in mediation, they cannot ask more than that amount. And there's just two, well, mainly two. There's another, but I haven't been there yet with another amount, but it's mainly two. When somebody died, doesn't matter how, and when somebody is injured.
Does the court make them wait their 3 years before they can file in court? No.
If you go to mediation and you don't have an agreement, you receive the formal paper, the certificate of you've been there, but you didn't get an agreement, and then you can go to the court as quickly as you want. Yeah, but to the court you have to go with the lawyers, with the attorney, and to mediation, no. And mediation is for free, and the trial is, you have to pay. Yeah.
Interesting. So fascinating. Everyone else, go ahead and any other questions? I've been asking all the questions. Is there anybody else that has a comment to make or a question to ask? Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question. When you see the issue of compensation is there, so does it matter whether the hospital is government hospital or private hospital?
Oh, very good question. Yeah, we have two kinds of mediation. I work in the public area, so I don't get in any agreement with a private hospital, because I also work in a hospital. So I cannot do mediations for that hospital where I work, for the private hospital. So I do mediations only in the public area. Yeah, but there's just one list of mediators, and that list is for private or for public, but you have to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a comment in the chat right now. It's a personal story, and thank you for putting it in there. And I'm looking at this story in the chat, and I'm nodding my head, because this is raw, Ximena. This is not like I can't pay my rent. I mean, that's raw enough to lose, your security. But this is raw. This is over the cliff, free fall raw stuff. And here's a personal accounting of the energy and force it took for one person to stand up for a person they cared about. You, as a mediator, you're standing up as well for the process, and you're standing up for, it's really interesting, you're standing up for the family because there's been a mistake. So everyone's acknowledging the mistake over here, So when you think of the mediating, what are you really mediating? You're mediating explanations, you're mediating money, you're mediating differently than a lot of us mediate at our mediation table, because the hospital has acknowledged, I'm assuming. Do you always get like 100% acknowledgement from the hospital? There's been a mistake. Of course, someone's died. So
Yeah.
like, what happens there?
But normally, I mean, I think 90% of my mediations is living people who are damaged. So it's 10% people who died. But at the beginning, as I was new, I thought, oh, all the people who are saying something went wrong in the hospital, it must be like that. That was my unconscious. But then I realized that it's not like that, because some people say, sometimes people are confused and think it was one way and it was another way. And they say, okay, but we are reading the file and we are reading this. And you say you went, you came to the emergency room that day, but you didn't. It was the other day. And then you say, we say, for example, to you, that's very common. You came here to the hospital, you received some medicine and some treatment, and we told you you have to come back in 5 days. So to make us sure that you were this or that, and the people doesn't come, and so they say, oh, and I was really damaged, and then the doctor say, yeah, but did you come from the control, because you're not in the file, you're not in the say, well, no, I couldn't, because, well, so it's not our fault, because you didn't do what you were supposed to. You have to come back to control, to see how you are doing. So if you don't do that, then you don't have like the right to say something bad happened to you because of our involvement in the matter. So yeah, not always is how they think it was, but also explanations are needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that. And I want to go back to Divida's comment about her personal story in the chat. Thank you for sharing it. I'm so glad that you use your personal dynamics and your expertise as a psychologist to stick up for your love, and that you made those doctors face the fact that they were ignoring what they were doing to the patient's will to live. And all of us, we can read here that you're still grieving, and we want to express our compassion to you, and hopefully you can feel this extra bump of support and know that we'll be thinking about you as time goes on, even though we're not on this webinar anymore. So
yeah.
this
Thank you very much, because I'm reading here, he said, I had to level the power dynamics and make the doctors not ignore what they were doing to the patient. That's so good for him to do, because it's leveling the power dynamics. Inside the hospital, most of the time the patients are in one level and the doctors are in another. So yeah, put them into the same table. It's a really good work. Yeah,
it was unbelievable what I was witnessing, and of course none of them knew that I was a psychologist, and I'm listening to one doctor come in and late at night and talk about all the extra effort he's putting in to finding these certain special platelets and everything, and I'm thinking, that's your freaking job. So what are you saying to the patient? You're saying to the patient, and he literally used the word, our resources, as if the patient did not deserve to benefit from the resource. That's why you're there. And after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore. And at that point, I just I just let them all have it. And it just, what was amazing was after, all the doctors who were, they were all medical doctors, talked about their area of expertise. And when they say finished and I said, well, you know, it looks like I'm the only psychologist in the room. And let me tell you what it does to the human spirit when someone is fighting for their life. It changed everything, everything. So had I not been able to say that, we were just people in the room. Everybody else were the experts at whatever it is that they did, including the patient's brother, who was also a medical doctor. He too was clueless. You know, I just, as I said, I'm so here for this conversation. I'm so glad that you talked about this, because I'm really interested in entering the field of mediation. But I'm just trying to figure out where to get in and where I fit in, you know, and what
I'm sure you're gonna feel it. I'm sure. And thank you very much for sharing your experience. Thank you very, very much. You were very brave as well, as to stand up and say, hey, it seems I'm the only psychologist, not medical doctor here in the room. So
well,
yeah.
honestly, here's what brought that out. I was in a program in Italy several years ago on the psychological well-being of those who were, I'm trying to remember the title of it, those who were suffering from inequality. And there were people from all over the world, very few from the US. I think there were 3 of us from the US. But one of the doctors I happened to talk to, he was from one of the European countries, and I asked him what brought him to that program. And he said, because I'm a medical doctor, we're taught all the technical aspects of medicine, but we don't know how to tap into the human aspect. And I just thought that was amazing that he would even recognize that and become a part of that program, you know. And I remembered that, and I think that's what made me speak up at that point, because I realized, okay, I'm the only freaking psychologist here. Everybody else is dealing with the technical aspect of what they've been trained to do. Yeah. So
yeah, you know about the technical medical aspects. It's very important what you're saying, because part of my job as mediator in this is to, when they are talking some technical, I say, please, I really don't understand. And it's easy, if I am the mediator, to say, oh, I'm sorry, I do not understand. Can you explain me in other words, or can you tell me again? Or as Kathleen taught us, just for clarification, what do you mean by this and that? You know, so it's easy for me to say that from the people, from the family of the patient, or the one who's suffering. So that's part of my job, to make sure that all of them are understanding the same questions, because most of the time there are doctors in my mediation table and lawyers. So they both talk very difficult, you know, and I am an agriculture engineering besides mediator. So I do not understand so technical aspects in doctors from lawyers. So I always have to make sure everybody understand. I say, please speak in Spanish. I say in easy Spanish, I say, please. Yeah, to the doctors when they get so difficult.
And I would comment on what you learned, and that passion that you took into that hospital room is the same passion that you can have as a mediator, because part of mediating is not just having the technical aspects and the logistics and the pragmatic process in place. It's mediating with what I say heart and head. And what I'm reading, especially when I see you capitalize the word make, all that personal force and power it took from you, that's heart. And mediators can do that as well. Mediators can bring that force of their heart to the mediation table as a mediator, as well as that logical left brain. And it's the balance that creates mediator style confidence and courage. And that same passion, now you can continue to take that forward and forward and forward in your area of mediation.
Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly. And other thing that, Kathleen, that I wanted to tell, that because it's a tip that was good for me that I learned, because I thought there was no, what when I went into the mediation, there are a lot of lawyers who are used to mediate, to this kind of mediations, health mediation. So for them, it's like, oh, again, another mediation. But for the person with his or her family, it's the first time ever. And they're very nervous in the Zoom. And so in the beginning, I was like, okay, now I'm going to explain you about the process. And I noticed that the family was like, what? And the lawyers were like chatting or communicating with other people from the office. So I said, this is not good. So what I do now is I talk with them, with the family, by phone, as much as they want. Perhaps it can be 1, 2, or 10 times, I don't care. And so when I come into it, say, okay, I'm just gonna do a brief summary about what mediation is, because, well, we have been talking by phone, no? So you now know, but if you have any question, please tell me. But so I make the point that I have been talking to them. So they have been explained about mediation in really detail. And so when I explain about the confidentiality that I have to say it by Zoom, or just 2 or 3 things and nothing else. And so they're all paying attention. Just when I say, oh, well, we talked about, and I say we talked about by phone, because also the lawyers have my phone. So it's, if they want, they can call me and ask me whatever they want. They do not do it because they are used to the mediations. But so then it's like, okay, now they're even, because they have all the information and they have been talking with me before.
Yeah, I'm answering this chat here really quickly. Yes, and that's the space we talk about, creating that space. So you're giving the family all this time by phone. They're asking all their questions. So number one, they're not getting brushed off. Number two, they're all glued to you, but in the background of this mediation, it's not so safe when the lawyers are, having all these little discussions like, oh yeah, here we go, what's the time? So I like how you just created that, I'm going to call it that sacred space. So the family just has plenty of time to ask you anything and everything. And then when they come to the mediation table, they've already been prepared. And if they have a lingering question, I'm sure they can ask. So I just think that's really,
and sometimes I do Zoom with them. Because if you sometimes it's going to be the first Zoom in their life, because there are a lot of people who are much more vulnerable. That is vulnerable. That word is very difficult. Yeah, well, with the special needs, and so I say, okay, I'm getting nervous for the Zoom. They say, okay, we can Zoom before, just you and me, and we can talk about in the Zoom. So it's going to be the same, but with more pictures here. So okay, let's Zoom 1 or 2 times before we go into the mediation. And that also calms them a lot.
Nice. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Those of you that came in late, yeah, this is being video recorded. So yeah, Will Chalmers will let all the regional directors know when the videos come out. I don't know where he's going to put all these videos, but they've got to go. So yeah, absolutely. Ximena, is it okay for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure.
Would you place your email information in the chat?
I will put my email on.
Thank you. And if they want to do the type of mediation that you're doing, do you have an extra apartment available for them in Chile?
Extra what?
You have an extra apartment available in your country, so we can come stay with you and learn from you?
Sure, I always have an extra bed. Yeah, my husband is Dutch, so a lot of people from Holland come from the Netherlands come, so I always have a spare bed. So please join it. Yeah, you're more than welcome. And I will put my number.
I really haven't heard of this mediation anywhere else ever. So thank you for making yourself available for anyone's questions. I'm looking for your email information in the chat. Did you send it to everyone?
Oh, sorry, it was some Keyshore.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
There.
Oh, why do I have
Session. Man, just
So,
remind me what it is. I'll
yeah.
put it in chat.
Yeah.
You have it? Or I can copy it off from your email. Right here.
Here and yeah, that's.
I got it.
Yeah, now it's from everybody.
Everybody can see it.
Yeah. Ximena Regulez. Yeah.
So thank you for making yourself available. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah, of course you can email me or WhatsApp me, whatever you want.
It was a fantastic presentation and you made it so easy to listen to. You're so relaxed and comfortable. Thank you very much. And we so enjoyed our time. I know I can speak for everyone. And I just wish everyone well. And this is our last day at IMAW. And we hope that it's been a great event across the world. And looking forward to what we're going to be able to do next year. So Ximena, my friend, thank you very, very much for your time.
Yeah.
And wish
Thank you,
well.
Kathleen.
A wonderful rest of the day or evening. I'm just starting my day at 9 in the morning. So
Yeah.
everybody else is probably getting ready.
You're gonna sleep in the day now. No, thank you very much, Kathleen, because of the opportunity to speak, but also for your support, for your backstage help. So thank you very, very, very much.
Anytime.
And thank you all for being here. Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you very much.
Everyone, goodbye. I'm going to end the recording now. Have a lovely rest of the day.
Okay, goodbye.